Today, just as in these scenes, the armies of the United Nations have made their first landings on the soil of Western Europe. Another of the great decisive battles of world history has been joined. This is the day for which free people long have waited. This is D-Day.
We didn't know when D-Day would be or where, but I was on a small party with a captain van and 4 of us. We had to go ashore on D-Day. Then the planes were going to come in on about the 4th. So we had to go and find an airfield for them to land on. D-Day didn't take place till the 6th, but we were on the boat on the 1st, left Tilbury Docks, up Townside, Southend for 3 days, before we then sailed through the Straits down to the Isle of Wight, just off the Isle of Wight. And then there was that huge storm, so everybody got rolled about well for 24 hours. Before we then settled.
We were called out on parade, and the CO, commanding officer, said, we're forming a unit for overseas service. He just said overseas service, never mentioned where. Any volunteers, step forward. So I was always told never volunteer when you're in the army, but foolishly I volunteered. And then we realised then that this was then going to be a trip to wherever it was. We always thought that was going to be Calais, but it turned out obviously Normandy. And then when we went down on the 5th of June, we got onto the lorries and they took us down to the docks at Tilbury. We got down there and that was postponed for the next day because the weather. And so they took us all the way back to our camps again. And then 6 o'clock the next morning, which was the 6th of June, we got in the lorries again and they took us down to Tilbury docks. And from there we set sail for Normandy on a Liberty ship.
We went over on the 18th of June. We went over then, and we rendezvoused at a place called San Gabriel after being violently sick because there was a big storm on the sea at that time. You see, you weren't told anything. You go up there and they're asking the colonel, how's it going on? Oh, it's okay, you know, it's all right, you know. But we never knew what we were going into, but we were prepared to have a go. We're British. We're always prepared to have a go.
The amount of aircraft flying over the top of you, and the battleships were all amongst you as well. As I say, when we got there, we come through between a couple of battleships that were firing their big guns onto the coastal defences, and your whole boat shuttered in the water. And we must have been, 200 or 300 yards from them, but that still vibrated your boat. We come up to the French coast quite early in the morning on D-Day, but then we got into trouble on some of the, we were in an American tank landing craft, and that got stuck on some spikes and things that were in the water. So by the time we got to the coast, That was getting quite late in the day, and the beach was being shelled, and you never knew when aircraft were going to come over, so you squiggled through the weeds, through the rushes, off the beach, and try to keep out what trouble you could, for the simple reason, if you had a purpose to do, you'd try to get there to find a field, which was our job. Well, you could hear things happen, and I suppose we were lucky. We heard quite a bit of noise in one instance, just as we were coming into the Canadian sector. You heard a lot of noise. Well, that must have been a group of soldiers gone through a gap in a hedge and then gone down this hill, and with high banks so they couldn't get off the road. And they must have opened a machine gun at the bottom of the hill, because when we went through the hedge, a minute later, they were all over the road. They'd been shot to pieces.
We went in after the infantry had secured the beaches. We landed with the Liberty ship was about 10 miles off the coast, and we went down rope ladders down the side of the ship onto the landing craft, and the landing craft then took us onto the beach. The beaches had been secured, but the heavy German artillery further inland was still stonking the beaches, what we call shelling the beaches. And I remember going up the beach, and I stumbled across the German helmet. And when I looked down at it, he's still got his head in it. And that made me realise what war is about. And as a 19-year-old, I felt really, really sick about it, you know. And we weren't brave. I wasn't brave, to be quite honest. People say, oh, you must have been brave, and that sort of. No, I wasn't brave. I was a scared 19-year-old. I wasn't brave. None of us were brave. We had a job to do.
They took us over by the 18th of June, and we took part in the 26th of June, which was the Operation Epsom. And we knew what it was all like then. And we went into battle then. And I didn't go into battle on a tank, really, because I was spare crews, so I was running around in a half track, and we were sitting quite quietly. The guys had been in, and we knew there'd been a problem, but they were lagered, as we called them, and we were sitting in playing cards, and they came up and kicked the cards away and said, we need you, quick. And so we didn't go in until the 26th of June, and then we found out what the battle was like, and it wasn't very nice. And we came out of the first day of Operation Epsom, and we thought, well, that's all over now. We're going to have another go tomorrow, and we didn't like that. We didn't think we should do that. You're talking about green kids, 18 years old, never been in the forces really. Green kids, we've had to go. Right now, let's go home, like, you know, no way. We had to realise that this is what was going to happen. And this is what we were going to do. But you don't know about battle unless you've been in battle. You don't know the rawness of it, the evil of it, really, on both sides. Unless you've been there. And but other than that, we broke out of Normandy.
Yeah.
Then the Germans were on Their job was to get back as fast as they could and reassemble. Well, we could move in there and we just move on with the infantry on the tanks. You just move on as you can, very, very slowly and quietly, and all around you are the civilians throwing flowers at you and all sorts of things, you know.
I'd also stayed in Normandy for the battles of Normandy, because a lot of people think that there's just the invasion, but there's a hell of a lot of fighting had to be done after the invasion. And my job then was to escort columns of ammunition lorries, food and all that. My mate Sandy Simmons, he was the rear dispatch rider. I always used to take the lead because he couldn't map read very well. We didn't have sat-navs in those days. And I always used to take the lead on our, and this particular day, I think that was about the 10th of July, I'm not quite sure on the date. I had to escort some ammunition lorries to a little place called Tilly-sur-Seulles. We had 6 lorries, I think, full of shells and all that sort of thing, you know. And we got to this crossroads, and unknown to me, the Germans had an OP post in the field next to the crossroads. And they spotted us approaching the crossroads, and they phoned back to the German 88s to open fire on the crossroads. I pointed my motorbike the way the convoy had to go, which was to the left. However, the Germans then sent the shell screaming over, and it landed in the field the other side of the crossroads. I knew then that they were going to shorten the range for the next one, and they did. And the shell came over, hit the crossroads, blew me up in the air, and the ammunition lorries about 20, 30 yards away. And I was completely deaf from the explosion.
We went through some meadows and one thing another, and that took us 2 days to get to Bayeux. There we got lost, and so Captain Van went to get some more maps off other units who had another area, because we couldn't find a field big enough for the planes to come in up to it. We were in aircraft like this. In fact, this aircraft was one from our squadron, what we had out in Normandy. We flew quite a bit about in this country, but when I got to Normandy, there wasn't too much for the observers to do. The captains who flew the plane, who were in the army, they would go up on their own, so they didn't need personnel like us very often. And then there would be photographers that would come on the unit and fly with them, so that if they want to film certain areas where the German concentrations were and things such as that. We found a field at Pluto where we were going to say, this will do, the planes get flying here. And that was quite a place to be in, we found, because the Germans had their observation post up chimneys just outside Caen, so they could actually see us where we were landing. So every night they used to put the shells onto us, and that was quite a problem. So we had to blow holes in the ground and shake them out so you can run the aircraft down in the ground so they didn't get hit. We went to the cookhouse one day at Bloomington with our Dixies, getting our lunch, and all at once there was an American plane chasing a German one, and he was firing at, but all the twigs and everything were falling off the trees over top of your head. He did, funny enough, get them. We saw the smoke go up quite a long way away, and American Thunderbolt turned up into the air.
I never got involved in a German soldier. I'm inside this steel thing, I never see any. Didn't even see them. You know, as I knew they were not there. They could knock us out from 1,000 kilometers, and we can't touch them until 500. So they just stood there and could stand there and pound us, you know. Our A squadron took a royal pounding by it, but I was lucky. Once I got in my place in the tank, I stayed there, and I'm very thankful for that. I weren't a driver. I was a co-driver, but I was a front gunner as well. I was a gunner mechanic. That was my trade. We fought in Germany, going through Belgium for a time, and we eventually crossed the Rhine into Osnabrück and pushed in through into Germany. And we saw all the German people, although we weren't supposed to talk to them. Prisoners used to give themselves up and come in a line to be taken into captivity. And with them was Nazis who were dressed like they were. And they didn't get through at all. The German people, the German soldiers themselves said, he's a Nazi, get him, he's a Nazi. They had their day, if you like, Sikhs who had their day. They would not go in, they didn't go into a captivity with us, with the rest of them. They were hooked out, like, you know, and we didn't hook them out, the Germans hooked them out themselves.
We were billeted in this German school, because the kids went to school, and I was up in because I was at that point I was an acting sergeant. I had 2 stripes, but I was acting sergeant. So I was up in the sergeant's mess, and to be quite honest, I got completely drunk. And then they turned around and say, Sunflowers, you're all right, the war's over, so, you know, and that's how I knew that the war had finished. People have often asked me, do you regret your serving your country? The answer to that is no. It taught me comradeship, it taught me discipline, and it turned a 19-year-old boy into a man. That sums it up.